And let us wrap up Chapter 7 of The Cockatrice Boys. Sana's feeling of utter terror as she lifted the latch of the cottage door and walked in was not at all diminished by the smell that met her from the interior. It was quite disgusting, sour, stuffy, a mix of dirty, decaying food and something sweetish and chemical, which reminded her of the flat in Manchester. An armpit kind of smell, she thought, peering ahead, trying to think how Dr. Wren would have described it. The sort of stuff people smear over themselves or pour down a drain to try and drown something horrible that's underneath. The interior was almost entirely dark to anyone coming from out of doors, so she stood still for a moment until her eyes grew more accustomed. On her left there was a dim glow and a mild warmth at floor level, and a faint scent, one of the better components of the engulfing odor of the house. This was familiar and took Sana back to those summer holidays with Mam and Dad. It was the smell of a peat fire. "Hello?" she said hoarsely. The effort it took to open her mouth and speak was enormous. Is anybody there? Is anybody here?" And the answer she received shocked her so badly that her legs almost gave way beneath her. "Sana? Is that my little Sana?" It was the voice she had heard twice on the train, the faint, shrill, wailing travesty of Auntie Floss's voice. Now, at the far end of the room, she began to make out the shape of a daybed or cot, and on this some person was lying wrapped in shadowy draperies and coverings. When Sana, sick with fright and dislike, stepped nearer, she saw twin sparks of light, eyes fixed on her. Can that be you, Aunt Florence?" she managed to say. The person on the couch giggled, an eerie, wholly unexpected sound. It seemed as if not one, but several people had all laughed together. "Who else would it be, dearie? So you got here at last, and a precious long time it took you, and your poor Auntie Flo waiting here for you so patiently. What kept you?" "Well, it wasn't nice of you. No, it wasn't, to stay away such a long, long time when your auntie wanted you so bad. Your auntie took you into her own place and was always so kind." Aunt Florence," said Sana desperately. "How did you ever get here?" This was a daft conversation. How could that thing in the bed be her Aunt Florence? She could still see nothing more than a shadowy shape with twin points of pale light set close together at one end. "How did I get here, dearie? Why, my friends brought me. From the flat? From Brillcream Court? From Manchester?" "Of course," sang out the voice, much amused. Again, it was as if not one but several voices spoke together. "My friends brought me." Friends, thought Sana, but Aunt Florence never had any friends. Nobody ever came back to her flat except for readings, and she never went out to play whist or bingo or to coffee mornings. There were no friends. Aunt Floss used to talk to herself or to the kettle in that spooky way, never to neighbors. "But didn't they bring you, lovey?" the shrill voice persisted. "My friends, didn't they bring you here? Where are they now? Why don't they come in? They know how much I want to see them again." "Who?" My friends, whined the voice, and ran up to a hysterical scream. "Why won't they come in?" Sana thought about the pair who had driven her in the carriage, as if there were two of them. "Two men fetched me," she began cautiously. "Where are they now?" Sana began to shiver. "I don't know. They threw me out of the carriage. It turned and drove off, I suppose, and a tree fell. You can't go back that way now." Oh, the voice wailed. "Why wouldn't they stay? Friends ought to stay together." There was something horribly wrong about the voice, about the figure and shape together, as if some foreigner with the vaguest conception of what Auntie Florence had been like were trying to act the part of Florence in a play written by somebody else who had never seen her. Sana began to think she might easily go stark staring mad herself if she did not instantly take some sensible practical action. By now her eyes were accustomed to the gloom of the room. Apart from the truckle bed, there was no furniture save a couple of stools by the fireside and a large cardboard carton under the window. Sana moved to the fire, blew on it, and laid on another hunk of peat from a pile she found heaped against the wall. "I'm cold and hungry, Aunt Florence," she said as matter-of-factly as she could manage. "Is there anything to eat?" "Food in the box, food in the box, food in the box." The answer came in a toneless gabble as if from a machine. A small flare of light from the new lump of peat on the fire revealed that the box was sealed shut with parcel tape, had never been opened. "Are there any tools here? Scissors, knives, forks?" "Tools? I don't know what you mean." Sana wondered if the sort of thing she needed might be found in the back room. A doorway at the foot of the bed opened onto darkness. For various reasons, she felt very reluctant to walk into that black place. Something in the other room seemed to be rustling. She would just as soon not know what it was. She approached the carton, delving rather hopelessly in her pockets, as she did for anything: a paper clip, bent pen, hair grip, rusty nail that might slit through the thick tape. The first thing her fingers encountered was a tangle of rope, the rope that had tied her wrists. Under that was something unfamiliar with an odd, complicated shape. What could it be? Withdrawing her hand, she realized what she held was the pair of tiny dolls, fastened together by the outside kilt pin. She had left the dolls on the shelf over Mrs. Church's kitchen range, and after they were dry, she had picked them up and put them in her pocket. That was when she and Aiken were running to and fro, carrying out trays of blackberry tea to the men on the line. Well, the dolls were quite dry now. Carefully, Sana pulled out the pin. Its point would be just the thing to score through the sticky tape. From the bed at the end of the room came a hoarse gasp. "Oh, the pain! The pain! What are you doing?" "Opening the box," replied Sana, scoring the point of the pin across the tape and prizing up the flaps. The box proved to be full of paper-wrapped bags and packets jammed solidly close together. Some felt like flour or cheese or macaroni, others like raisins or biscuits. There were tins and jars as well. All right, as long as there's a tin opener somewhere, thought Sana. With the point of the pin, she tore open a packet of biscuits and nibbled one. It tasted of ginger. Faintly, distantly, as if from another life, she remembered that her Aunt Florence had been very fond of ginger biscuits and always had a couple of packets in the flat. "Would you like a ginger biscuit, Aunt Florence?" "Oh!" cried the sharp, thin voice. "How can you offer me food to eat when I suffer such pain? I can't eat. I can't eat. Never any more. I am far too ill." "Do you want a drink?" Though dear knows where I'll find one, thought Sana. Drink, fast. Mug on floor. Overcoming her extreme distaste, Sana approached the bed, where the smell was even more powerful, thick like mephistic gas, and found a clumsy china mug on the ground. "Water barrel by door." Sana remembered with horror that grotesque, spooky figure, all made of willow wands, standing just outside the cottage door. Was it still there, or had it got up and walked silently away once Sana had passed by? But the water barrel proved to be inside the door, not outside. She dipped out a mugful of water and took it back to the figure on the bed, who received it in two hands, skinny as bunches of twigs, skinny as that creature's hands. The cup was raised, but Aunt Florence, if it was she, did not drink. Instead, two brilliant pale eyes stared at Sana over the rim of the mug. The face behind the mug was still in shadow. "So long to wait, waiting in cold and dark." The whisper was like the telephone message in Colonel Clipspeak's office. It echoed from all around, from the walls, the ceiling, the floor, like a rustle of snakes uncoiling. Sana said desperately, "Who are you? You are not really my Aunt Florence, are you? Who are you really?" The hands opened and let the china mug crash to the floor. I am Queen Hela, the Queen of Air and Darkness. All the powers of the air are my servants. Then the figure lay flat back on the bed, like a card house that had fallen down, neither spoke nor moved any more. Sana fled to the door, opened it, and ran outside. But by now the blizzard had risen to full force. A gust of sleet lashed her in the face like a cat o' nine tails. The force of the wind made her stagger. Despairingly, she realized that she had not the remotest chance of surviving a journey of unknown length and direction, shoeless, through strange woods and mountains in such weather. But the alternative, a night passed in that gruesome little house, with that grisly mummy-like replica of Aunt Florence. How could she possibly endure it? I've got to endure it, thought Sana slowly. Remember those chaps on the Cockatrice Bell. Remember what they've got to put up with. Snarks, kelpies, basilisks, trolls. They never even know what's coming next. If they can keep going, I can too. Squaring her shoulders, she walked back into the house and piled another handful of peat lumps on the fire. Then she helped herself to a few more ginger biscuits and munched them slowly. The smell in the house had killed her hunger, but she knew it was important to eat something. The mug had smashed, but she still had one shoe. She filled it out of the barrel and drank a few mouthfuls of stale-tasting water from the heel. Then, pulling the kilt pin from her pocket, she sat down beside the fire, with her back against the wall, clutching the pin in her right hand. She had no other weapon, and it was better than nothing. After a while, her left hand stole back into her pocket and came out with the 2 dolls. I'm glad I found them, she thought drowsily. They were part of the old life with Mam and Dad. Perhaps they'll bring me luck. Dr. Wren said something about them. He told a story. What was it? Her head dropped forward on her knees. She slept. And that is the end of chapter 7.